Welcome back to another video, and today we got our first episode of the season of NBA Playoff Watch, and with this being the first episode, we're going to get right on into the season predictions. We're going to predict the records for the Eastern and Western Conference, every single team, dive into each team, talk about each team a little bit, where we think they're going to place this season, and then after that, we're going to set those standings into a playoff bracket and predict who we think is going to win it all this NBA season. Real quick, before we get started, make sure you subscribe if you're new. We got a whole lot of content on the channel right now, college football and NFL videos every single Tuesday and Wednesday, respectively, every single week. So if any of that interests you, make sure you go on there, subscribe, hit the notification bell to make sure you don't miss whenever we upload. NBAs typically will be Thursdays, but this week it's a Monday with the season starting tomorrow. And college basketball content will be ramping up here very soon, so make sure you stay tuned for all of that. With that all being said, though, let's just dive right on in to the Eastern Conference. And the Eastern Conference maybe not as good as the West. Well, definitely not as good as the West, but it is definitely interesting to look at. So at the bottom, I think there's two teams I kind of want to start with at the bottom. We'll just reveal them both. It's going to be the Nets and the Wizards at the bottom. I think you could flip-flop the order. Me personally, I went with the Nets. I just think the Nets are just overall, a little bit less exciting than the Wizards. I mean, the projected starting lineup is Dennis Schroeder, Cam Thomas, Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Nick Claxton. They got Ben Simmons still over there. I mean, Cam Thomas might as well. He might have to average 35 points a game for this team to be good. I think he actually will average around 26 points per game. I don't think that's crazy to say. I mean, there's not many options here on this team. And then moving over to the Wizards, again, just nothing really to get excited about here. I mean, when looking at this team, yes, they have Alex Sarr, which I guess could be exciting. But Jordan Poole looked horrendous last year. Kyle Kuzma's still there. Valanciunas still there. Malcolm Brogdon, they bring in. I mean, there's more players here for me to think compared to the Nets, where I think they probably finish ahead of them. But I mean, I'm definitely interested to see how Alex Sarr and Bilal Coulibaly develop this year. Still got Corey Kispert as well. I mean, they have a young team. Bub Carrington also. They got a lot of young guys. I feel like the Wizards will finish ahead of the Nets. I think that's safe to say. Coming in at the 13th spot, though, I have the Pistons, so they're not going to be last this year, I don't think, which I guess is a good thing. Obviously, if you're a Pistons fan, I mean, they were the worst team in basketball history almost last year, and they got the 5th overall pick, so very unfortunate. But when looking at this roster, Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Asar Thompson, Tobias Harris, Jalen Duren, that actually looks like a pretty good starting lineup. Marcus Sasser still there, going to continue to develop. They bring in Tim Hardaway Jr. Isaiah Stewart will probably play some center minutes off the bench. They bring in Malik Beasley, who's one of the best three-point shooters in the league last year. I think this Pistons team will be much improved. They move on from Monty Williams. It's going to be J.B. Biggerstaff. So, yeah, I definitely do think this team will be better than it was last year. I think they'll actually win over 20 games, but I'm not expecting anything too crazy from them. Moving to the 12 teams, I think these are realistically the only teams that could get into the playoffs, but the team that I have in number 12 is going to be my team, the Chicago Bulls. Honestly, this is going to be a bad year for us. I mean, I tried to convince myself they could maybe sneak in at the 10th spot, and I still do believe they could. But when looking at the team, Josh Giddey, Kobe White, Zach LaVine, Patrick Williams, Vucevic, yes, I mean they lose DeRozan, they lose Caruso. Ayo Dosunmu is going to be off the bench, which honestly I'd rather have him starting, but they have Josh Giddey now, so Zach LaVine maybe he's going to prove some things, and I think he's up for contract this year. Kobe White I think is going to continue to improve. So it's definitely exciting. They bring in Matas Buzelis in the draft. They also bring over Jalen Smith. I mean, you get towards the end of this rotation, it gets a little thin, But the first seven, first six, seven, eight guys, it's not a bad rotation. Just nothing really jumping out the page. Nothing to get all that excited about. But definitely not a bad roster, all things considered. I just think there's better options and better teams here. The team that I think will be missing the playoffs just barely is going to be the Toronto Raptors. And when looking at the Raptors, uh, Scotty Barnes, I think, is going to continue to get better. He's definitely going to be something to watch over there. But Emmanuel Quigley, R.J. Barrett, kind of actually looked. They started to get better as the season kind of progressed last year after they got traded from the Knicks to the Raptors. I do think the Raptors will be a little bit better than they were last year, but me personally, I don't think they get in the play-in. They definitely can. A lot of people are going to say they do because the team I have getting in at 10 is kind of my sleeper team this year. The team that I have getting in at 10 is going to be the Charlotte Hornets, and this is probably surprising to some people, but I'm actually a believer in the Hornets. I mean, as long as they can stay healthy, that's definitely, and specifically LaMelo Ball, we haven't really seen a healthy year from him, a full year. But I think Brandon Miller could potentially be in consideration for most improved player. I think he's going to get really good this year. I think he's going to have a really good season. Miles Bridges, Grant Williams is a really good role player. They got Trey Mann. They got Cody Martin off the bench. Mark Williams will need to stay healthy, but if he does, I think they'll be in good position. Uh, Seth Curry's over there. I mean, it's definitely not a bad team. I think the Hornets surprise some people. I think they sneak into the playoffs here. Now, is 10 games under 500 anything good? No. But in the East, I think that's good enough to get them into the play-in. We'll see how far I have them actually making it. But moving on to our next team, it's going to be the Atlanta Hawks. And I feel like these are kind of the consensus bottom 7 teams. I feel like there's definitely a drop-off. The top 8 teams and then a big drop-off after that. The Hawks are going to be the best team, though, in the, I guess mid to bad teams tier in the Eastern Conference. So I guess that's something to get excited about. With the Hawks, they definitely, honestly, this is probably the ceiling. I don't think they get much higher than the 9 seed because, in all honesty, the top 8 teams in the East feel like pretty set in stone. Now, the order could definitely switch around. But Trae Young is really just leading this team with no more DeJounte Murray. I mean, they got Clint Capella. They got Jalen Johnson. Some people think he's going to be most improved player as well. I could definitely see that. He just got paid like an hour or two ago. Dyson Daniels going to continue to develop. DeAndre Hunter. They bring in Zach Rissicher. I think that's how you say it. He was the number 1 overall pick. Apologize if I am not pronouncing that right. They still got Onyeka Okongwu, Larry Nance Jr., Bogdanovich is going to provide a lot of threes and scoring off the bench. It's not a bad team whatsoever. I just don't expect them to make much noise, but I do definitely think they are a play-in team. But now this gets into the really interesting teams, and I'm not confident about this. I'm going to go with the Heat. They are known to slack off a little bit in the regular season. Now, will they do that again this year? I don't know. That remains to be seen. But the starting lineup is projected out right now to be Terry Rozier, Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, Nikola Jovic, and Bam Adebayo. Jaime Jaquez off the bench. Alec Burks off the bench. They have Kel'el Ware now. That's definitely going to be interesting. Duncan Robinson still there. Now, a lot of people are going to say Jaime Jaquez should be starting over Nikola Jovic, but honestly, I kind of like his role off the bench. I feel like it gives them a little bit of a spark. They still got Kevin Love as well. I forgot to mention him. It's a very deep team. It's going to be typical Heat basketball, deep, defense first. They're going to win games, 97 to 88, something like that. They're going to have one of the best. I mean, they have one of the best coaches in basketball, in Eric Spoelstra. So they're definitely still going to be a play-in and postseason team. I just don't expect them to get one of the top 6 seeds in the East, but definitely I could see it. They just haven't really shown me anything in recent years to really get me excited for the regular season aspect of things. The team I have at 7, I don't feel great about this. I have the Magic. I know they were a 5 seed last year, but I don't have them really regressing. I believe they won they won about the same amount of games last year. They won either 49 or 47. I'm winning 48 games. I just feel like there's some teams in the East that are going to improve from last year. I mean, the Magic were seated ahead of the Pacers and the Sixers, who I have both ahead of them, and I feel like that's pretty clear, to me at least. But with the Magic, kind of similar to the Heat, except a little bit more exciting, a little bit more ceiling, definitely way younger. I mean, they're going to be one of the best defenses in basketball. That's, you know, nothing to question. Jalen Suggs, they bring in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, which I love. Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero going to continue to develop. He could potentially make some All-NBA noise. I wouldn't be surprised. Wendell Carter off the bench, Cole Anthony, Anthony Black, Jonathan Isaac, Mo Wagner. I mean, it's just a really deep defensive-oriented team, and I really do like this for the Magic. But I do have them in the play-in as of right now. Definitely could see them getting as high as, honestly, their ceiling's probably 5. I feel like I don't know. The East is kind of a question mark after the top two teams, really, in my opinion. Uh, the top two teams are kind of in the tier of their own. You could argue the top one team is in a separate tier as well. But 3 through 8, you could kind of mix it around, in my opinion. Moving on to the number 6 team, though, I have the Pacers. Complete opposite to the Magic, right? I mean, they are going to be a team that scores 140 points typically. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton, Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, Siakam, Miles Turner, T.J. McConnell off the bench, Bennett Mathurin off the bench, Obi Toppin off the bench. I mean, it's a really fun team, high scoring, like I said. I feel like the Pacers definitely have the chance to make some noise. I mean, they made the Eastern Conference Finals last year. They're definitely a team that if they get hot, they're going to be hard to beat. I think they win close to 50 games this year. I'm winning 49. Definitely could see them maybe as high as 4. I don't know. The Pacers are kind of a team I could see anywhere from like 4 to 8. Like the Pacers, yes, they made the Eastern Conference Finals last year, but was that realistic? I mean, they played an injured Bucks team without Giannis. They did beat the Knicks. I don't know. The Pacers are kind of a mysterious team. I do definitely think they'll make the playoffs. But what seed will it be is definitely a question mark for me. The team I have at number 5 is going to be the Cavs. I feel like they're another team that are just kind of locked in at around this 50 to 47 win range. The Pacers, the Magic, the Heat, definitely all the teams I feel like are going to be in play-in discussions. I feel like the top 4 are kind of set to be top 6 teams at bare minimum. But Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Isaac Okoro, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, that's a great starting 5 off the bench. Still got Karis LeVert. I do worry about this depth a little bit, but Evan Mobley I think is going to develop and turn into one of the best. I mean, he already is one of the best defenders. I feel like people are going to start to hear his name more often and kind of recognize him because he actually has been very good. I think he's going to really blossom this year. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell's still there. Darius Garland will need to step it up a little bit from last year if they want to make any noise in the playoffs. But I think regular season they're kind of, safe to pencil in around 50 wins. Looking at the 4 seed, I have the Bucks. Now this is gonna upset some people maybe. I mean, the Bucks are kind of a team. I've seen the Bucks anywhere projected from the 2nd seed all the way down to the 6th seed. They're going to be without Chris Middleton for a good portion of the regular season. Well, at least a good portion of the beginning of the regular season. But they still got Giannis, still got Dame, still got Brook Lopez, still got Bobby Portis, Pat Connaughton, Gary Trent Jr., Taurean Prince. I mean, DeLon Wright. It's still a good team. I feel like they could struggle out the gate without Middleton, but they still have Giannis and Dame. It's hard to kind of go against that. I feel like the Bucks are a safe bet to win 50 plus games. I'm winning 50 on the dot, but I feel like the 3 teams I have ahead of them, I feel a little bit more confident in. And the team I have at 3 is going to be the 76ers. The 76ers, I honestly believe, have the potential to get the 1 seed. Now, I'm not going to project it, But I'm telling you right now, the Sixers have that potential in them. They bring in Paul George, still got Embiid now, and Maxi's going to continue to get better. Kelly Oubre was really good last year. They got Caleb Martin. They just drafted Jared McCain. I think he could be interesting. Kyle Lowry, Eric Gordon, Andre Drummond off the bench. I love that move. The Sixers were definitely one of the biggest winners of the offseason. Now, the reason I say I'm not going to project it is we don't know how many games Joel Embiid's going to play. I mean, he just gets injured too much for me to trust them to project out to be the 1 seed. But I could see a world where if he plays 60-plus games, the 76ers, I seriously do believe they have a chance to win the 1 seed in the East. Now, you're not going to hear that from a lot of experts and a lot of people. They're going to say the Celtics are penciled in at the 1. And, I'm not going to disagree with that. I have the Celtics as my 1. But I'm telling you right now, the 76ers have that potential because now Paul George and Tyrese Maxey, if Embiid does go down, Andre Drummond's a solid backup for him. I mean, he is one of the most underrated players, I truly believe, in basketball. And yeah, like I said, Tyrese Maxey was one of the best players in the league last year. That's not even like an exaggeration. He was that good. Now they have Paul George as well. I'm really high on the Sixers team. They could definitely surprise some people. I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't be surprised if Embiid is healthy for a good amount of the season. They could definitely finish as the 1 seed, surprise a lot of people. But I have the Knicks as the 2 seed. I feel like as of right now, I'm gonna trust the Knicks, and well, we already know who's won. I'm gonna trust these two teams over the Sixers. As of right now, the Knicks, they trade DiVincenzo and Julius Randle. I expected Julius Randle to get dealt. I didn't expect DiVincenzo to get dealt. I kind of, for the chemistry, I wanted to see the Nova Knicks. We didn't get to see it. But they got to be one of the winners of the offseason. I mean, Mikal Bridges is there. Now they got Cat as well. I mean, listen to the starting lineup. Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, and Karl Anthony Towns. That is a great starting lineup. I mean, do they run Mitchell Robinson at the 5, play Cat at the 4, Josh Hart off the bench? They could definitely do that. Miles McBride's still there, campaign. I mean, they did lose a little bit of depth with the Karl Anthony Towns trade, but I still do firmly believe they are one of the 2 best teams in the East. The team that I do think is number 1, no surprise here, it's going to be the Celtics. I think that's pretty clear to say. Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford. It's just a ridiculous team. Porzingis is going to miss a good portion of time. I actually don't know how much he's going to miss, which I do think hurts them a little bit. So I don't think they'll run away with the East like they did, where they were 14 games ahead of second place. I think it's definitely going to be closer this year. I still do believe they'll win 60 games, though. I think they're going to be one of the best teams in basketball. Well, actually, we can move on to the West. I actually do have them finishing as the best team in basketball, even without Porzingis for a majority of the year. But moving on to the Western Conference, starting off with the bad again. We got the Trailblazers and the Jazz. I feel like these two teams are interchangeable. I think the Trailblazers, I give the edge for the worst team in the West, just because the Jazz have Lauri Markkanen. They got Jordan Clarkson. I mean, with the Trailblazers, yes, there's talent there. I mean, Scoot Henderson, Anthony Simons, Shaden Sharp, Danny Avdija, Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton, Donovan Clingan, I mean, Chris Murray. I mean, there's talent there. It's just in the Western Conference, this is the worst team. The Trailblazers in the East would be probably better than the Wizards, definitely better than the Wizards and Nets, probably better than the Pistons. They're probably about the same level as the Bulls, in all honesty. But in the West, they're going to be the last place team. With the Jazz, Keontae George looked really good last year. Colin Sexton, John Collins, Walker Kessler, Lauri Markkanen, obviously. Yeah, definitely going to be a team to watch with trades. I wouldn't be surprised if Jordan Clarkson gets dealt. Now, they can't trade Lauri Markkanen because they just signed him, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're selling at some point this year, which I think is good. They definitely need to tank for a good pick. Moving on though, the 13 seed, I am gonna have the Spurs. A little disappointing. I don't think Wemby gets into that playoff, his first taste of the playoffs quite yet. The roster around him is still lacking, definitely. But they bring in Chris Paul. They bring in Harrison Barnes. Stephon Castle still there. Devin Vassell still there. Jeremy Sohan. Uh, Keldon Johnson. I mean, it's not. It's definitely a better team than it was last year, and I think we'll see that. Wemby's gonna probably win DPOI. He'd probably be my prediction to win it. Um, but uh, in the West, like I said, I mean the Western Conference is just so stacked. I mean, you could make an argument. I could see the Spurs actually getting in the plan. Crazy as it is to say, I could see it. If Wemby just goes absolutely nuclear and does it himself, I wouldn't be shocked. But I do have to. I'm trying to predict what I think is realistic to happen. At the 12 seed, this might surprise some people. I have the Clippers. No more Paul George. Kawhi Leonard, he's out indefinitely. We don't know how much he's going to play. We never really know. I mean, his knee has just been through so much. I mean, even if he comes back, what are the I mean, there's a good chance he gets injured again and misses. He played a lot of the regular season last year, but when it came playoff time, his knee just gave out. He hasn't played a full, regular season postseason since like 2016, I think it was. I saw. Yes, they have James Harden. Yes, they have Zubac. Yes, they have Terrence Mann, Norman Powell. Chris Dunn, I think, is actually a really good addition. Bones Highland's still there. Derrick Jones Jr., Nick Batum. I mean, it's a deep team, but nothing really to get excited about. Again, if they were in the East, they probably make the play-in, but in the West, it's just so tight. It's hard for me to project them to get in. When looking at our next team, though, again, probably would be a play-in team in the East, but in the West, it's just so stacked. It's hard for me to say the Warriors, as of right now, roster-wise, are a play-in team. I mean, you look at the roster: Steph Curry, Wiggins, Draymond Green, Kuminga, uh, Trace Jackson Davis is going to get better. They bring in Buddy Hield, DeAnthony Melton. Pod's going to continue to get better. They got Looney. I mean, Moses Moody. It's not a bad team, but when looking at the other rosters in the West, it's hard for me to. I mean, I feel like a lot of these games, it's just going to come down to how hard can Curry carry, and that doesn't really get me all too confident or excited coming into this year. So I'm going to have the Warriors sitting at just outside the play-in as of right now. Now, I wouldn't be shocked if they get in because they still have Steph Curry, who's one of the best players in the world. Now, people aren't going to like that. I have the Rockets in as the 10 seed. You could argue the Warriors or the Clippers deserve, or even the Spurs. But when looking at the Rockets, they were just outside the play-in last year. They got hot near the end of the season. When looking at this, I mean, Sengun was out for the year. I want to remind people that, and they still almost made the playoffs. Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green just got paid a bunch. Dylan Brooks, Jabari Smith Jr., and Sengun, that's the starting lineup. And it doesn't end there. Off the bench, Aaron Holiday, Reed Shepard, top 3 pick. People think he has a very good chance to win Rookie of the Year. Amen Thompson, people think he's going to break out this year. They got Steven Adams at the backup center. This is a team that I'm actually starting to convince myself and buy into. I mean, Ime Udoka, one of the best coaches in the league still. I feel like people forget that he's there. I'm bought into this Rockets team. I think they can make the play-in. I have them going 41-41, so exactly average. But I think there's definitely a real chance they could get in. When looking at our number 9 team, it's hard for me not to say the Lakers, or it's hard for me to say the Lakers missed the playoffs. I think they get in the play-in. I mean, D'Angelo, I mean, it's really just LeBron James, Anthony Davis. It's hard for me to say that team doesn't get into some sort of postseason. Yes, D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, Max Christie, Dalton Connect. He's looked really good so far, so I'm glad to see that for them. But definitely gonna keep our eyes out on the Lakers because they're a team that they're a team. They could finish all the way up as the 4 seed. They could finish as the 13 seed. We really have no idea with the Lakers. Similar with the Clippers, the Warriors. A lot of teams in the West have a wide range of outcomes just because of how good this conference is. At the 8 seed, I have the Kings. They bring in DeRozan in the offseason. Now the starting lineup looks like De'Aaron Fox, Keon Ellis, DeRozan, Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis. That looks like a really good team to me. Malik Monk off the bench. Kevin Huerter also off the bench. I'm surprised they wouldn't be starting him. Maybe they do. This is just what it's projected to be right now. But that's a really good, 7. They got Trey Lyles. I mean, that's a really good 7-8 man. I think the Kings are going to be one of the best offenses in the league again. And I think I'm definitely interested to watch how DeRozan meshes in with Fox and Sabonis. As the 7 seed, I have the Pelicans. I tried to convince myself to give them a top 6 seed. I just personally couldn't do it over the teams that I have in the top 6. But I do have them tying with the 6 seed. I mean, the Pelicans are right there. The thing that concerns me is right now, Herb Jones is starting at center for them. I don't know what that's about. I mean, they just don't have a center. But like, I mean, Herb Jones, he was one of the best defenders in the league last year. But that was when he was guarding small forwards. I don't know if that translates to 7 footers. He's only what, six, so anywhere from 6'6" to 6'9", I think. I mean, he's not really all that, like buff either. He's Now we'll see. It's definitely going to be an experiment, but they bring in Dejounte Murray. I mean, the starting lineup looks really good. I don't like Herb Jones at the center. Maybe I wouldn't be surprised if they move Brandon Ingram. I feel like that's kind of just waiting to happen. We could probably see it at some point this year. Because if they move Ingram, get us a real center, the starting lineup could look like DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum, or Herb Jones, Zion, and then whoever they get at center. Trey Murphy off the bench as well, Jose Alvarado, Jordan Hawkins. It could look a lot better. Javonte Green as well, Daniel Tice. I don't know. I feel like the Pelicans, they got a whole lot of talent. The talent's there. I mean, those names are really good players. But I feel like they're just missing a center. I feel like Brandon Ingram's the odd man out. Wouldn't be surprised if he gets traded at some point this year. The Pelicans, though, I do believe will be a postseason team. Moving on to our number 6 team. It's going to be the Grizzlies. People forget, but Ja was, when he's healthy, he's top 10 player in the league. I mean, he was, what, 6th, 7th in the MVP his healthy year. They got Marcus Smart, Desmond Baines, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Zach Edey at the 5. I mean, you're telling me that team's not. I mean, I know Zach. We'll see. He's gonna get a lot of minutes. Brandon Clark, they still have off the bench. Santi Aldama, Luke Kennard. I mean, if they can stay healthy, they are a playoff team. Now that's definitely a big if because we saw last year everybody got injured. I mean, everybody. But it's a new season, fresh start. I mean, you can't predict injuries. If they're healthy, they're definitely going to be one of the better teams in the West, I think for sure. Uh, Coming in at the 5 seed, I believe it's the Suns. Now, you could make an argument. I'm actually very excited for the Suns. I wouldn't be surprised if they finish higher than this. Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Yusuf Nurkic, Grayson Allen still there. The crucial thing that I'm very excited about, they bring in Tyus Jones in free agency. That I feel like people aren't talking about enough. They finally have a real point guard to facilitate the offense, get the ball to the playmakers. I feel like that's going to help them a whole lot. I still worry about the defense. I still worry about the depth. Typical Suns things to worry about. So that's kind of why I don't have them in the elite tier, because these top 4 teams, you can make an argument for any arrangement. I feel like the top 4 are kind of in a tier of its own. Nobody really sticks out to me either. Um, That's why I have their wins and losses so close. But the Suns definitely have a chance to make some noise. Now they could fall off and disappoint. Like I mean, we've seen it before from them. But Tyus Jones, I feel like is a crucial acquisition for them at the 4 seed. Now I don't feel confident about this. This could definitely come back to bite me. I have the Nuggets as the 4 seed. I don't know what it is. I'm just getting weird. I mean, the depth is questionable now. I mean, Jamal Murray's been on the decline. Michael Porter Jr. hasn't shown much besides scoring the ball. Aaron Gordon, still there. Obviously, they have Jokic, who's the best player in the league, which kind of makes me. I mean, I still have them winning 55 games. They bring in Westbrook. I don't know. I mean, you're once you get past Westbrook, I mean, Julian Strawther, Hunter Tyson, Dario Saric. I don't know. I'm not getting too excited about the depth here for the Nuggets, and also Jamal Murray has been on the decline, which does worry me if they're their second option. They're placing a lot of responsibility on the young guys, which I think could come back to bite them in the postseason. But in the regular season, with Jokic, with Jamal Murray, yes, he's still a very good player. Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon. I still do think they're going to be one of the best teams in the league. But I'm finishing at fourth in the West. I mean, the West is just so stacked. At the 3 seed, like I said, any of these top 4 teams you can make an argument are the 1 seed. At the 3 seed, I have the Timberwolves. They were the 3 seed last year. They lose Karl Anthony Towns. I don't really get the trade, the thinking behind that one. Really, for either team, I mean, just keep. I mean, well, I actually understand for the Knicks. I would have liked to see them keep DiVincenzo, but the Timberwolves, I just feel like it's unnecessary. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they want to give Anthony Edwards the full reins, but like he was already the number one option. Rudy Gobert and Cat finally figured out how to play together. Now you bring in Julius Randle. I don't like the fit there. They obviously still have Naz Reid off the bench. One of the deepest teams in the league for sure. Jaden McDaniels, elite defender. Mike Conley, very good point guard. They bring in DiVincenzo off the bench. Joe Ingles, like I said, Naz Reid, reigning sixth man of the year. They draft Rob Dillingham, who I think they're hoping he learns from Mike Conley. And he's going to get some good minutes. Nickeil Alexander-Walker was really good. It's a very deep team, which I think is going to help them. Defensive oriented. They still have a lot of their pieces, and they did need to move somebody. I mean, I don't know. They can't have Gobert, Cat, and Ant all on the roster just because of the salary cap. But like, I don't know. I feel like that wasn't the trade you were hoping for, if that makes any sense. I feel like they could have gotten a better package in return because Julius Randle just doesn't excite me too much. At the 2 seed, I have the Mavericks. They made the NBA Finals last year as a 5 seed. I think Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic, we saw from them a whole lot. Enough for me. They looked really good. They bring in Klay Thompson. They bring in Spencer Dinwiddie. I mean, Daniel Gafford, PJ Washington still there. Derek Lively is going to continue to get better. They bring in Quentin Grimes as well. Maxi Kleber. This is a really good Mavericks team. They made the NBA Finals, and I would probably say they got better from last year. Yes, they lost some guys. They lost Derrick Jones Jr. They lost Tim Hardaway Jr. But they really replaced them with some. I mean, Klay Thompson, Spencer Dinwiddie. I'm actually pretty excited for the Mavericks season this year, and they could definitely make. I mean, Luka. This has got to be the MVP year for him, right? I mean, the fact he doesn't have one's crazy. This has got to be the year, though, I feel like. At the 1 seed, though, I do have the Thunder. They were the 1 seed last year, and I would argue they also got better. They bring in Caruso. They bring in Isaiah Hardenstein. SGA, I mean, maybe he wins MVP. In my opinion, those got to be the top 2 guys, Luka and SGA. Lou Dort, Jalen Williams could. I mean, he's got to be an all-star this year. He's got to continue to jump forward. I think he probably will. Chet Holmgren as well. Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe off the bench, the other Jalen Williams. Um, yeah, this is a really good team. Defensively, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they have a top five offense and defense in the league this year. Definitely wouldn't put it past them. The Thunder are going to be my number one team. The Thunder are scary. They have so many picks. They could go out there and trade for a superstar, or I mean, Sam Presti's got to be the GM, the best GM. They could go out there and go get a superstar. They could also just go out there and continue to restock with the draft. I mean, they have so many options. They're probably in the best spot of any team in the league. They're so young still as well. I mean, it's crazy what we've seen from them. So I do have the Thunder as my one seed in the West. But moving into the playoff bracket, so these are based off of my predictions, nothing else. We're going to start at the 7-8 game in the West. It's going to be the bottom left corner, the Pelicans taking on the Kings. And yes, this is going to be a very interesting one-game series. It's in New Orleans. I think that gives them the edge. I'm going to go ahead and take the Pelicans. I think overall, the Pelicans are slightly better. You can make an argument to me the Pelicans deserve to be a top 6 team in the West. It's hard for me to come around to that, but you could make an argument for the Kings. You could also make an argument, but I feel like the argument is a little stronger for the Pelicans. I think they are overall the better team. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Brandon Ingram trade soon to go get them a real center. But as of right now, even with Brandon Ingram, I do believe they are overall the better roster. It's a pretty close, but I feel like they have the depth, the defense to get them through this one game set with the Kings. The Lakers Rockets, as much as I love the Rockets and I'm bought in with what they got cooking over there, I am still going to have to go with the Lakers. Yes, I mean, we say this every time. It's LeBron, it's AD. It's hard to go against that. So I am going to have to take the Lakers, but I do think the Rockets could win that game. It's hard for me to predict, though. Moving on, though, to the winner go home game for the 8 seed, the Kings taking on the Lakers. You can make the same argument for that I made for the Rockets Lakers matchup, but ultimately in Sacramento, one of the best home court advantages in the sports. The Kings are definitely better than the Rockets in my opinion. De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis, DeRozan. I mean, those are some of the clutchest. I mean, De'Aaron Fox and DeRozan were, I believe, the 2 clutch player of the year, either last year or the year before. They got Malik Monk off the bench. He's, 20 plus points off the bench for them. Kevin Herter's an X factor. The shooting, I don't know. It's Sabonis AD would be a great matchup. LeBron's definitely going to be a matchup problem. I'm going to go with the Kings, though, at home. I'm going to take them to get the 8th seed in another unfortunate loss for the Lakers. I got to go with the Kings, though. I mean, we make the argument LeBron AD, but I mean, what has that argument done? I know they won a championship. Besides 2020, I mean, I feel like they fall short every year. I don't know. They get in as one of these 10 through 7 seeds and end up losing. I know they did beat the. You know what? We're gonna move forward. I know they made the Western Conference Finals 2 years ago. Besides, all right, we're gonna just ignore that argument. Moving on over to the Eastern Conference, the 7-8 matchup, the Magic versus the Heat. Now, I do believe the Magic are the better team, but in the postseason format, the Magic's still a young team. I know they have the playoff experience. They made the playoffs last year as the 5 seed, lost to the Cavs in 7 games in the first round. But in a defensive-oriented matchup, I like the experience. I like the coach advantage here in Erik Spoelstra. I'm going to take the Heat to get it done. But the Magic, I do think, are overall the better team. Just matchup-wise, I think it favors the Heat, especially in a one-game scenario. The Hawks, Hornets, 2 teams that I'm not very. I mean, I actually am excited about the Hornets. I think they're going to surprise some people. But I don't think these 2 teams really have a chance, in all honesty, to get the 8 seed. I'll take the Hawks. They got the best player, Trae Young. They have overall the better team. But ultimately, I think they either one will lose to the Magic pretty easily there. The East kind of has a clear top 8 for me at least. The West, you can make an argument 13 different teams could make the playoffs. Not even over exaggerating either. Moving on though to the Western Conference first round, the Thunder taking on the Kings. As much as I do like De'Aaron Fox, DeRozan, Malik Monk, Sabonis, those guys, I mean, combined, those guys probably give you, 80, 90 points by themselves. The Thunder, like I said, you could argue top 5 defense, top 5 offense. You could argue top 3 offense and top 3 defense. I believe the Thunder have one of the best teams in the league. I don't think they lose first round. I think they win this one. I'll give the Kings a game at home there, just because of the environment. I want to go Thunder in 5, though. The Nuggets versus Suns. I predict this a lot in the Western Conference Finals last year. Now I got them matching up in the first round. These are two teams that I'm not crazy. I mean, I am excited about the Suns. They brought in Tyus Jones. I'm not crazy excited about the Nuggets just because I worry about the depth. I worry about both these teams come playoff time just because they both lack depth. They both have now the Nuggets have a better defense for sure, which is why I'm going to take them over the Suns. Now, I think with the star power on both teams, they will be fine. But in the playoffs, can they make a huge run? Either team, really? I mean, I don't know. The Jokic is still one of the best players in the league. Same with Kevin Durant. I don't know. I'm going to take the Nuggets. I trust them a little bit more than the Suns. I like their defense a little more. But both these teams lack depth, which does concern me. I'm going to take the Nuggets in 6, though. The Timberwolves versus the Grizzlies, two teams that we've seen in the first round, I feel like, a lot. With this matchup, though, I am going to go ahead and take the Timberwolves. The Grizzlies, even if healthy, I think the Timberwolves have become a better team. Anthony Edwards is becoming one of the best players in the league. I think you could argue he is better right now than Ja Morant. I feel like that would be... Now, I feel like a lot of people would say he's easily better. He's not easily better. Ja's still very good. People forget. I think he'll prove that this year with him being healthy, hopefully at least. But looking at the roster, the Timberwolves still one of the deepest teams in the league. They improved their depth with the Cat trade. I do worry about Julius Randle in the playoffs, but over the Grizzlies, or against the Grizzlies, I'll take the Timberwolves to win. I'll say in 6. The Mavericks versus Pelicans. Honestly, I don't see a world where the Pelicans win more than 2 games in the series. I think at best they win 1. I'll go ahead and say there's always a sweep. Actually, no. I'm gonna say the Mavericks take this one in 5. I feel like the Pelicans can get 1 game, but I definitely do think the Mavericks don't struggle at all in this one. So give me the Mavericks over the Pelicans in 5 games here. Moving on, though, over to the Eastern Conference, the Celtics take on the Magic here in round 1. And I was going to say there's always one sweep. I was going to say the Mavericks sweep the Pelicans. But I feel like this is probably the more likely sweep. I'll take the Celtics to sweep the Magic. Yes, the defense is really good. But against the Celtics, I probably make the argument the Celtics have a better defense. And they have a way better offense here. The Magic just don't really impress me too much offensively. I don't think that carries over well to the playoffs. You got to be balanced. I mean, I know defense is very important in the playoffs, but you can't have a bottom 10 offense and expect to beat the Celtics. So give me the Celtics in 4. This first round matchup definitely very intriguing. The Bucks taking on the Cavs. Ultimately, though, I have to go with Giannis and Dame in the playoffs. I feel like the Cavs are just a team that is going to win a lot of regular season games, but in the playoffs, I can't see them getting over the hump. I don't know. I don't think they're better than these top 4 teams in the East. They definitely can prove me wrong. Donovan Mitchell is a very good player. Evan Mobley, I think, is going to improve this year. I already said that. But over the Bucks, it's hard for me to say that. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Bucks. But I don't know. I'll take the Bucks in 6. Actually, I'll take the Bucks in 7. I think the Cavs keep it very close, but I do think the Bucks get it done. The Sixers and the Pacers, definitely an interesting series. The Pacers were the 6th seed last year and made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Can they do it again against the Sixers? The Sixers are probably the team I'm the highest on this year. I mean, I know I don't have them. I have them as a 3 seed, so how can that really be? I don't know. I'm gonna take the Sixers though. They're a team that I truly do believe in this year. I feel like the Sixers are all in at this point. Maxey is one of the best point guards in the league. That's not an over exaggeration to say he is that good. They bring in Paul George as well. Uh, he's gonna bring a lot defensively for them as well as offensively. Um, and obviously Embiid down there. Now the health is a question mark, and I said if he does miss half the season again, the Sixers could definitely fall in the standings. But I feel a lot better now about them because Maxey's continuing to get better, and they now have Paul George. So the Sixers are a team I truly do believe in. Against the Pacers could be a tough matchup, just matchup wise. I do believe though they would get it done in, we'll say in six. I think it would be a really good series though. And then the Knicks versus the Heat. Heat are always a scary team to play in the playoffs because of Spoelstra. I think the Knicks win. I'll go in six. I think the Heat keep it close just because of the defense, the coaching, but ultimately Thibodeau is also going to have a very good defense, and we saw in the playoffs last year how they really stepped it up against the Sixers in a very tough series with Embiid. That was not an easy. I know they were the 7th seed, but with Embiid, are they really the 7th best team in the East? No, probably more top 4 at least. So that was a very tough first round matchup. They got it done. Now ultimately they did come short against the Pacers, but I mean, I think this is the year they're all in as well. Them, the Sixers, yeah, there's a lot of teams that are going all in this year. I do think the Knicks would. Well, I don't think the Knicks lose first round. Moving on over though, back to the West in the second round, the Thunder take on the Nuggets. And normally I would take the Nuggets just because of the experience, but how often are we going to play the experience card with the Thunder? They were the 1 seed last year. They lost in the second round to the Mavericks. It was a very close series. The Mavericks went on to make the NBA Finals, so that's not necessarily a bad thing that they lost to them. SGA, Jalen Williams and Chet. That was their first playoff run. This is going to be their second now. SGA, I think this would be his third. The Thunder are a team that I believe got better from last year. They were elite last year defensively and offensively. Like I said, I believe they could be top 3 offensively and defensively this year. I feel like the Thunder, this is the year they get over the hump. I think they take down the Nuggets. I do. I feel like the Nuggets rely too much on their young pieces for depth. I really do worry about the depth for the Nuggets. I think the Thunder have the depth. Yes, they are young, but they have one of the best coaches in the league. I know the Nuggets do as well. They have all the recipes. They're elite defense, elite offense, top 5 player in the league in SGA. They got everything to do it. They got depth. They're a really good team. So I really like the Thunder this year. I think they get over the hump. I think they beat the Nuggets in 6. I think if it goes 7, Jokic might just, go crazy, do Jokic things. But ultimately, I'm going to take the Thunder to beat the Nuggets. This is an interesting one. That Anthony Edwards takes on Luka Doncic in a Western Conference Finals rematch from last year, where a lot of people thought the Timberwolves would win. The Mavericks end up winning. It's hard for me to say that it's a different outcome this year, especially with them losing Cat. They lose a little bit offensively. Now they have very good depth, but how much does that help them against Luka, Kyrie, Klay Thompson? That's just a killer 1, 2, 3 offensively. The Mavericks are very good, very deep as well, defensively as well. So I do think the Mavericks do ultimately make it back to the Western Conference Finals. I think they beat the Timberwolves again. 2 very deep teams, like I said. I think the Mavericks win. It's going to be a very close series. I think it goes all 7, but I think the Mavericks win again. It's just so hard to game plan against Luka. Moving over to the East, though, Tatum versus Giannis, Jaylen Brown versus Dame. The star power here is crazy. It's hard for me not to go with the Celtics, though. The Celtics just have the depth. They have the defense. They have the offense. The Bucks, I don't know. They were injured last year. They made it as a 3 seed loss in the first round of the Pacers. I know there was no Giannis in that series. I believe no was it no Dame or no Middleton? It was one of the two. They also missed. I don't know. It's so hard to beat the Celtics at this point in time. I gotta go with the Celtics. I'll go Celtics in 6. Giannis will definitely make it interesting, but I do have to go with the Celtics here. Again, it's just so hard to pick. This series, rematch from the first round of last year. The Sixers are gonna want this one bad. I think this one is, you can lock this in. 7-game series, probably the best series of the playoffs, in my opinion. I feel like this series is just going to be an absolute bloodbath. Embiid versus Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, Karl Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby versus Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, Paul George. I mean, that is just a killer playoff matchup. What it comes down to for me, the Knicks did lose a little bit of their depth. The Sixers, I believe, as well have very good depth. These two teams are about as even as it gets for me. But can Embiid stay healthy? I mean, it's hard for me to predict the Sixers to the Eastern Conference Finals with the fact that Embiid just can't stay healthy. The Knicks will have the home field advantage, or the home court advantage. I'm going to go with the Knicks in 7. The Knicks, they're bought into this year. You see it with the Cat trade. They are bought in. They have a chance to be the best offense in the league this year. Man, the NBA is just in a great place right now. There are so many good teams. It is in the best place, one of the best places it's ever been, with the parity, with the it's a great sport. Moving though to the Western Conference Finals, a rematch from the semifinals of the Western Conference last year. These two teams, it was the 1-seeded Thunder taking on the 5-seeded Mavericks. Now it's the 1 seed versus the 2 seed. And I do believe these are the two best teams in the Western Conference as of right now. I'm going to keep this short and simple. I think the Thunder get their revenge. I really do. I think it's hard to get back to the finals back to back. It's even harder to win the finals back to back. I think the Thunder do it. I think both these teams were arguably, these two teams were probably top 3 in the West, top 4 at least. And I think you're going to see the same top 4 teams. Thunder, Nuggets, Timberwolves, Mavericks. I think the Thunder get over the hump, though. These two teams the Thunder were the 1 seed last year. The Mavericks made the NBA Finals. I think these two teams both got better. I think you would argue the Timberwolves got, I don't want to say worse, but they probably stayed the same, if not got worse. I think the Nuggets overall did get a little bit worse. So, in my opinion, these are the two teams out of the West right now that I feel the most confident in. I think the Thunder, like I said, they have the potential to be a top 3 offense and defense. SGA is going to be an MVP caliber. He already is an MVP caliber player. I think he's going to be either the MVP winner or the runner-up. I think Luka is the other option. I think the Thunder get it done. I think they win in 7. I think the defense just overpowers. I don't know if the Mavericks have the defense to quite match up. I love their offense, but again, the defense just matters. I think the Thunder get over the hump this year. I think this is the year they get into the finals with this core they've built. I think the Thunder take this in 6 games. Moving over to the East, Boston versus New York, another marquee matchup here. Again, though, it's really hard for me to say a team in the East is as good as the Boston Celtics. They just have a loaded roster top to bottom. Again, you could argue that they have a top 5 offense and defense this year. They're going to have the home court advantage. They'll have it's going to be 2 great coaches, but I'd argue they have the coaching advantage. They have the defense advantage, in my opinion. They have about the same offensive. I don't know. It's so hard for me to say this. We've seen it. They won it all last year. I said if there's any year for them to do it, it was last year. They did. They're going to be looking to repeat, and I think they get back to the NBA Finals. I think they beat the Knicks we'll say in 6. I just feel like matchup-wise, I don't think the Knicks can take it to 7. But that sets up a 1 seed. A lot chalky, actually, now that I think of it. I had 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3 in both conferences. I had 1 versus 2 in the conference finals in both conferences, and now I have 1 versus 1 in the NBA finals. But I mean, it kind of makes sense if you think about it. I mean, I'm predicting these standings based off who I think is the best team, so it kind of makes sense for me. I don't know. Thunder versus Celtics in the NBA finals. Who do I think will win? Like I said, with the Mavericks, it's very hard to make the NBA finals in back-to-back years. I have the Celtics doing that. But what I also said is it's even harder to win back-to-back titles. You look at the past back-to-back champions. You take a look through history. Take a look through NBA history. I mean, you have Steph Curry with the Warriors. He won back-to-back, but he was top 3 player in the league. Uh, um, you got Kobe when he did it with the Lakers. Um, Jordan, obviously. These are all top 10 players of all time if you really look at it, besides, the Pistons with Isaiah Thomas. But that's really the outlier. Do we think Jason Tatum is a top 10 player all time when it's all said and done? I don't think so. Is Jason Tatum even I mean, you look at the recent NBA champions, not even back-to-back. The Warriors did it with Steph Curry. The Nuggets did it with Jokic. All these players were top 5 in the league when they did it. Kawhi, LeBron, Curry, obviously, Durant, LeBron again, Tim Duncan. I mean, you take a look back. Every single NBA champion had a top 5 player on their team, except for the Celtics last year. Jason Tatum, I would argue, not a top 5 player. Definitely top 10, but not top 5. But with that being said, do I think the Celtics can repeat back-to-back? I definitely do think they can. Do I think they will? The odds are saying no. I'm going to take the Thunder. Give me the Thunder to win it all this year. I believe in SGA. I believe in the young core they built. Like I said, I think they have the potential to be a top 3 defense and offense this year. Both sides of the ball, that's crucial. They have the depth to do it. They have the coaching. I mean, this is going to be a great finals matchup. I think it would go all 7 games, but I think the Thunder come out on top. Give me the Thunder over the Celtics in 7 games to win the NBA Finals this year. But let me know what you think about my season predictions. I apologize. Probably a pretty long video, but there was a lot to talk about. We haven't talked about NBA in really since April, so got to keep you guys caught up. But you can expect these videos every Thursday. From moving forward, not this week, but next week will be the second episode. If you enjoyed, make sure you go on there, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, turn on the noties to make sure you don't miss whenever we upload. Like I said, college football and NFL every Tuesday and Wednesday. When college basketball starts up, we'll have the Monday college basketball rankings every Monday, weekly, and you can expect content for that to start up very, very soon. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I'm just saying it's coming. It's coming very soon. With all that being said, though, that's going to do it. Links in the description, as always, X, Twitch, TikTok, Discord. Follow those, join those. With all that being said, though, hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you guys tomorrow with our college football top 25 rankings.